Welcome back.
Hi everyone.
Happy Life Results Book Group.
With the author Stacy McPherson.
We're doing concept number 7, to infinity and so on. And it starts, is this getting serious? Yes. Okay. Hero, as your power increases, it's time to get less serious. We want to keep those energy floodgates wide open. A fun way to do that is to keep things fresh is to consider where you would go if your if your perceived limits were no longer there.
Okay.
So yeah, those preconceived or perceived.
Or perceived.
Okay.
Do this. Number 10, do this. 1, do a brainstorming session where you list out as many incredible abilities and accomplishments as you can think of that you think would be meaningful and interesting.
Number 2, you bring your interest to the thing, not the other way around. Things aren't inherently capable of controlling your interest. You choose what to be interested in.
That was kind of a trick there, because she said list off the things you think will be interesting, and then own your joystick and say, actually, I decide what's interesting. Those things don't make me interested.
Yep.
Right? That was okay. After the brainstorm, number 3, after the brainstorm, look at the directions you're pursuing now and see if you want to make any adjustments.
And likely you will. Likely it will be very different than what you did at the beginning when you were just on the edge of the cliff learning about what you thought you could do, what you thought you were capable of.
And once you look at perceived limits, you might be doing certain things now because you thought they made you feel a certain way. Or you might be doing things now because you thought that was the best you could do. And so if you open the limits to see other options, other potential directions, what would you include and what would you stop doing that you're already doing? What adjustments?
Yeah.
What adjustments would you make?
Yep. Look at the directions you're pursuing now and see if you want to make any adjustments. And you can't go big and go wide and say, if I reinvented every aspect of my life, I could. I actually talked to someone recently who took 7 days just to do that. 7 days all by themselves.
Wow.
And they couldn't believe the clarity that they got. Like,
wow.
What do I want to be? Who do I want to be? And then made a lot of changes and then leveraged their time in ways that they wouldn't have even thought possible. So it's so cool.
Yeah. So a lot of times, any kind of transformation, self-help, improvement program, typically, because they're based on using pain points, they're based on the traditional system.
Yep.
They typically limit what you're going to attempt to very small, one step in very short time frame, because that's the longest that's going to work.
Yeah.
But if you have been following along and figuring out how to do this in an unconditional peak experience approach, you can go big and you can go wide. You can look at making all kinds of adjustments all at once if you're really good at doing it in a way that accesses your energy, in a way that doesn't make you feel overwhelmed, doesn't, like, all of those potential down states that would interrupt somebody's program, their new improvement. If you're not doing it that way, then you don't, right? That's why you're saying, hey, you can drop your limits. So if you're using pain points and bullies and that kind of thing, those limits probably did feel real.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So real. This is as much as I can do. And I used to really limit what I could do based on how much sleep I had gotten. And if I didn't get the amount of sleep I felt like was healthy for several days in a row, I would get sick consistently. Because that's what I thought. That was the limit I placed. And I said, I can't function. I can't function. And anyone who studied the immune system knows that the immune response can be triggered without a pathogen.
Yeah. If anyone who's had allergies, like seasonal allergies, a little flower can make you feel like you've just caught a huge cold.
Yeah.
But it's nothing. It's not something actually harmful. It's just pollen.
Yes, and you can make your own assumptions here, but I think that our thoughts are very powerful in the effect of the immune response. I think that our thoughts can definitely, well, it's
I think
proven with the stress.
But I think it's fair to say that we don't know exactly the role, but we know our thoughts play a role.
Yeah, and it's been proven that if you have a lot of cortisol in your system, often you have a high level of stress, then you'll have, heart disease and things like that. So I mean,
but there's some connection between your thoughts and your physical. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there is a connection. What exactly that is, I don't think anyone has a perfect read on that. Yeah. So then, if you had all these limits because they did seem real, and you change your approach, you're not using the traditional system, once you hit that point, that's why it's concept number 7, because Stacy, once you get to the point where you're using a different system, now it's time to look and see, what limits did you think were there? Yeah. And adjust, or see if they're really there. And so why do you want them to brainstorm first?
Oh yes, I love brainstorms because what they do is they create an environment where you're saying yes to yourself. Anything you think of, just write it down. Don't say, oh no, I can't write that because of this, and I can't do that because of this. A true brainstorm is you say yes to all of your ideas, you get as creative and open-minded as possible, and then you just write it all down, even if it's crazy. You just go, okay, I'm just gonna write it down. I thought it, I'll write it down, and just really think about every area and then narrow it back down to the areas that you think are.
So even if I put down on my brainstorm that I would be, like I would fly from planet to planet or something like that. Like that's the brainstorm. You just put everything down. And then when it comes to, well, what am I going to adjust? That's probably not the first thing I'm going to put, that I'm going to fly from planet to planet. Yeah. Like I'm going to pick something that I see as, yes, this would make a big difference in my life, and this is one I can commit to. But the brainstorm is just to open that creative. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
And you would explore areas you might not explore otherwise if you didn't start with the brainstorm.
Yeah. And she's helped me with this because sometimes we'll start a brainstorm, and I'm like, oh, but that's not. And she's like, that's not how brainstorms work. It's a yes storm. She calls it a yes storm. Everything's yes. Just write it all down. Yes. Just encourage everything that can come to mind, right? Yeah. I've learned how to do this.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, okay. Anything else you want to say? Nope. Okay. And just
give us feedback. Comment.
Yes.
Whatever you chose.
And if you're one of those out there that say, I think in the guide section it's called Limitless. Is that right?
Limitless, I think, is the last one.
Limitlessness.
Oh, no.
Yeah, this is limitlessness in the guide section. If you're one of those who say, there's no such thing as limitlessness, there are limits, just think of this as the limits are unknown. You're finding the true limits. So let go of what you think they are in order to explore and see what they could be. Yeah, and to kind of keep in the back of your mind that whenever anyone reaches a limit, if they did 1 second more or 1 day more or then it would be surpassing that limit, and you can imagine it wouldn't be that much harder to finish the race in 1 second less time. So to realize limits are being surpassed all the time in what people are capable of. And so just keep in mind when we say limitless, it means we don't know the limit yet and we're discovering how far we can go. Cool. Yeah. All right.
All right, see you tomorrow.
See you guys tomorrow.